apologize for the delay. The Madison County Board of Education special session for Thursday, June 2nd, 2022 is in session. Mr. Perkins, would you do our invocation, please?
Loving Father in heaven, we're grateful for your goodness and your mercy towards us, for the opportunity, Lord, you've given us to work in your vineyard, to impact lives and make change for the better. We simply ask, O Lord, that you would guide our thoughts, you guide our actions, you guide the decisions that we make so that these decisions, Lord, might be in the best interest of all, and especially, Lord, first and foremost, our children. We ask, O Lord, that you would be in this place and that you would guide, lead, and direct all that we do. And we give you the honor and the praise, Lord, because you're worthy. For it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I recommend approval of the agenda dated June 2nd, 2022.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation for approval of the agenda dated Thursday, June 2nd, 2022. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have 4 requests to address the board. I want to just make sure everybody's present before we begin. We have Ms. Beverly Sims. We have Ms. Katrina Moore. We have Christina Krentel. All right, and we have Ms. Shonda Hasselman. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read this statement before we proceed, and we're going to start with Ms. Beverly. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes. In the event you wish to address the board on an issue involving the general reputation, character, physical condition, professional competence, mental health, or in some instances, job performance of an individual, or confidential student information, the board will hear your comments in executive session. If you're unsure whether your comments should be made in executive session, please see our board attorney, Cynthia Thompson. All right, Ms. Sims.
I'm short, so don't start my time till I get.
Okay.
All right. Good evening. For the past few weeks, I have been working with a team of ladies to address the inadequacies of the teachers' salary schedules. Thank you to all who have worked with us to make improvements. However, the salary schedules still have problems that need to be fixed. I acknowledge that the new salary schedule starting in 2019 was not passed under current leadership. I don't think any of us realized the depth of the problems until this year. Thank you to Mr. Perkins and Mr. Kubik for making changes yearly in an effort to correct the inadequacies. However, I'm disappointed that we are having to fight to get our teachers' salaries fixed, for lack of a better word, and that the major increase in funding this year was seen as a means to free up monies in local funds. At the last board meeting, the intent of the increased minimum salary matrix was discussed. Let me clarify the intent from those who know. After speaking with leaders who helped draft the bill and 4 local legislators, I can confirm that the intent of the funding was for every penny to go to teacher salary increases. In the words of Representative Rex Reynolds, it was not meant to supplant local funds. I like the way Representative Andy Witt described the funding as he understood it when he voted. It was supposed to be like gravy, additional funding on top of what was already being spent, money to go solely for increasing salaries. And Senator Sam Gavan reminded me that the local legislators were in support of the extra funding for several reasons, but mostly due to the fact that there are major industry and government jobs in our area to take teachers from our classrooms. The extra funding was intended to retain those teachers by being competitive. Again, the funding was supposed to be gravy on top, but that's not the way it's being applied in the currently proposed salary schedules. I ask that you all as a board insist that the salary schedules reflect the intent of the budget that was passed. And one more request for you, Mr. Kubik. A majority of employees recently proved that they have trust in you and your word that you value them. I'm asking that when you take the reins, that you continue working to get us back to one salary schedule with comprehensive salaries. No base pay plus supplements. Using supplements for teacher salaries is simply a way to play with the numbers and cheat them out of their full percentage raises. It wasn't until this year that I realized that the 4% raise would only be applied to base pay and not their comprehensive salaries. This is wrong, especially considering that most central office employees in this room, with the exception of maybe one, with 100K plus salaries will receive their full 4% raise. Don't get me wrong. I want everyone to get their full raise.
Thank you,
They're
Ms.
my members too.
Thank you, Ms. Sims.
Our teachers deserve better.
Miss Christina Krentel. Yeah, I'm just going to. Okay. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Christina Krentel. Thank you for taking the time to read through the information that's been sent to you over the past few weeks. On May 19th at the board meeting, Mr. Kubik stated that the new salary schedule is not as good as the old salary schedule. Yet the district is trying to move more people to the new salary schedule without increasing it significantly. As a team, we have tried to show what we consider to be significant increases that would fix the problems the new salary schedule created. We do not believe steps 13 through 25 have been given enough compensation in order to keep these salaries competitive. We are not asking for 20 to 30% raises. The discussion regarding teacher raises has been ongoing. While we understand Madison County has always paid above the state minimum, this time you are choosing to reduce the county's contribution to our salaries for those of us on the old matrix, which in essence is a way to divert the money somewhere else. What is the goal in doing so? Have you clearly stated what you are trying to do so that our stakeholders and employees understand the district's goals and vision for the future? It's simply an issue of supply and demand. We've all heard from universities that college students aren't enrolling in teacher ed programs at the rate needed to meet the demand for teachers in the next 5 to 10 years. Because of this lack of enrollment in these programs, some tough questions must be asked. Are we prepared as a system for these shortages? Are we going to be able to compete with our sister systems in terms of recruitment and retention, or will our system fall behind? At this moment in time, we are focusing on repairing the salary schedule, because when the new salary schedule was implemented, it was not a means to prepare for the next 10 to 20 years, and all it does is cause confusion. We need to shift our mindset from reactive to proactive, or we will be facing larger problems in the very near future. Your obligation as leaders is fairly straightforward. You must lead the future, create a strategy that will drive sustainable growth, and establish a strong culture that will attract and keep the best talent. I think it is important to look at the original intention of the state pay raise. The intent of the raise was to retain qualified veteran teachers. A particular member of this leadership team has stated that once a teacher is vested and is in Madison County school system, they aren't leaving. This is truly a dangerous mindset, and I urge this person to reevaluate his or her mindset. The May 19th proposal had a teacher in Madison County schools with a master's degree on the old matrix at step 20, making $4,196 less than they would in Madison City. And I want to thank you for reconsidering your original proposal and bringing that number down to $3,196. However, this past school year, that same person was only making $1 less than Madison City. Also, I have a few questions that might help me and others understand the financial summaries listed on our website. What did we do with the $11 million in revenue left over at the end of fiscal year 21? What did we intend to do with the $3 million of revenue we budgeted in our fiscal year 22 budget? And what percentage of ESSER 1 funds that was allocated to our district has been spent? Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing your answers. Lastly, to my wonderful colleagues here tonight and watching online, who are mentors, child abuse neglect spotters, suicide risk detectors, human shields, and curriculum specialists, thank you, and please know you are making a difference every day.
Thank you, Ms. Quintero. Ms. Hasselman.
Thank you for allowing me to speak to you this evening. When the new state salary matrix was passed, teachers were ecstatic to be getting a raise that was moving closer to the cost of living increase and not being impacted by a raise to our insurance. We were very disheartened to learn that these large pay increases would only apply to teachers hired into our system in the past few years, and that the rest of us would only be getting a 4% raise. It was disheartening to see that in many cases, a new teacher new to our system was getting a few $1,000s more in their raise than a loyal veteran teacher. Those of us on the old salary schedule were getting paid significantly above the state minimum and were shocked to see how greatly this will be reduced. I would like to thank Mr. Perkins for listening to our concerns and correcting some issues, but there are still some steps that need to be looked at. Most teachers hired in the past 3 years will be getting both a larger percentage raise and a larger monetary raise than those veteran teachers in our system. This is as much as $4,400. Most teachers are on the bachelor's and master's level. Newer teachers on these levels will receive an average raise of about $1,800 more than a veteran teacher. You can see the actual amounts of everyone's raises and the step increases in the information that I sent to you via email last night. Most of us are okay with this, as it is moving to get everyone on the same salary schedule, and it will be more equitable. The recent changes to the proposal have given most people on the old salary schedule at least a 5% raise and increased the difference in the amount over the state matrix to within $1,000 of last year's amount. When we look at the difference between the state matrix between this year and next, all levels except doctorate, we see the amount above the state salary metrics is less for next year than fiscal year 2020 for all steps between 9 and 26, except a master's step 12. We need to look at those few steps where that difference is still over $1,000 and the increase to the step is still below 5%. Please especially look at steps 13 to 20, as these are the steps still receiving less than a 5% raise, and their difference between the amount paid over the state matrix is still as high as $2,500 when compared to last year. You can see these steps boxed in red on the spreadsheet that I sent you last night. If our system could increase the supplement by another $500 to $1,000 in those steps, it would be a fair compromise to those of us who have shown so many years of loyalty to our system. I would like to thank Mr. Perkins and his leadership team for increasing compensation for teachers with years of loyalty, and by moving everyone to the same salary schedule, making everyone's salary more equitable. But we do still need to do just a bit more for those of us in the middle on the old salary schedule. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hasselman. Ms. Katrina Moore.
Good evening. I first want to thank you for allowing me this short time to address the board. My name is Katrina Moore, and my child attended Sparkman High School under the current administration. I'm here to address the board regarding unfair practices of retaliation and discrimination within the Sparkman JROTC program. I'd like to know that all incidents were brought to the attention of the Sparkman administration and escalated for an investigation through the board. I'd also like to make the board aware that my child is not only a one-time St. Jude cancer survivor, but a two-time St. Jude cancer survivor. He is medically diagnosed with mental illnesses of severe anxiety, clinical OCD, and complex PTSD due to not only his personal journey of battling cancer, but the loss of 19 friends. That's right, I said 19. Thus, my child has an IEP for educational needs. Here are the few of the issues, incidents, or occurrences. The school violated my child's IEP. While we were already aware of this action, the investigation proved this to be true. Example, he was required to take a 100-question test due to missing the Veterans Day Parade. However, this was due to a health-related issue that was actually documented with a doctor's note. And while referencing my son as being the varsity boys basketball manager, the JROTC instructor belittled and embarrassed my child in front of the peer cadets by saying, "You'll go nowhere by pushing a broom." Cadets would later tease and mock him about the incident. He didn't receive equal accolades, grades, and awards as other cadets. He was removed from the JROTC program for a semester due to an incident that didn't occur during school or on school grounds, and there was no ethic code violated. Additionally, this removal was only from being misled and false statement, lies, and unfair practices by the senior JROTC leadership. However, there are other cadets who are currently violating written ethic codes during school and with no reprimand. This list could continue. However, I only have 3 minutes to sum up what's been allowed to happen to my child over years. So the reason of why I'm here is I'm a mom of a superhero that has mental health issues due to his superpowers that actually saved his life. And sometimes that superhero needs a little kryptonite. Well, that's me. Just because my son's health issues aren't visible doesn't mean they don't exist. He shouldn't have to hide, share, or prove to anyone that Shields is required to protect himself. Superheroes don't share their superpowers. That's why severe anxiety, OCD, complex PTSD is a mental illness that isn't always visible, but it doesn't and it always can be just as severe. In summary, I would like to request that an investigation be looked at regarding discrimination and retaliatory actions within the Sparkman JROTC program. While my superhero is now a recent graduate, and proud of that I am, I'm here as an advocate, but more importantly, for the next child that has a health issue, physical or mental.
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
I'm a voice.
All right, Mr. Perkins, back to you.
All right. Administrative items. I recommend approval of the 2022-2023 salary schedule as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation for approval of the 2022-2023 salary schedule as submitted. Any discussions? Is there anything else you all like to add, Mr. Perkins, Mr. Kubik, on the salary schedule?
No, just to go over, just to touch on the changes. So from 0 to 10, the supplement is 2,500. The change is from 45, from steps 11 to 25, it's 4,500, and then from steps 26 to 35, it's 5,000. And then the addition of the supplement for band,
Okay.
not to exceed 10 days, $250 a day.
And previously we had, it was 25, 35, and 45 for those supplements for the teachers, correct? Okay.
Yeah, I'd just like to say from my perspective, this is where we're going to be right now, but we're going to continue to look at it and try to do as much as possible as we see how it plays out in the future.
My question is from where we started to, I guess, where the teachers are wanting to go to where we are. What's the difference? What's the difference in what?
I don't have that number in front of me, but we've talked about it and looked at it, but I don't have that number in front of me.
There's a balance between doing more and maybe putting the system in jeopardy, but then waiting and kind of looking at it over time and seeing where we end up. Last thing we want to do is put the system in a situation that makes it difficult for everybody.
Yeah, to Sherry's point, I think I looked at the salary schedule as a delicate balance. I heard from a lot of teachers, some of you in this room, and I appreciate all the feedback I received. And I think what we have is not perfect. I think there's room for growth. There's room for opportunity for us to review this. I do think it's a great start. I think we can build upon this, and I'm willing to revisit this at a later time. I think there's opportunity for us to work through this, but I think right now, with where we are with our revenues are solid right now in our county, sales tax, property taxes, those are things that we have to consider. I think this is a solid first start, and I'm willing and I'm committed to revisiting this again.
So it's only just like what I'm looking at this chart here, it's only like a few in the, I guess what the teacher's saying in the middle that really needs to be addressed. Does that make sense?
And there's different ways to view it too, because you got what's happened in the past where those blocks kind of got a lot more in the past. So, I mean, there's different ways to view it. But the bottom line is we want to do as much as we can as soon as we can, but we don't want to.
Yeah.
We don't want to get in a situation where we overdone.
And I would love to get to one salary schedule for all of our staff. I think we're getting closer to that. I think we will get there in the near future. To have these two salary matrices that we have to navigate, I think is difficult, confusing, and at some point we will get to one salary schedule, and that's my hope. But for now, I think this, for me, speaking for myself, I think this is a decent plan. I appreciate the teachers who reached out to me. I appreciate Mr. Kubik's work on it, Mr. Perkins, to get closer to where we want to get to. Not quite there. We have just a few more steps we need to work on and get those to a better place. But I think it's a decent start. Any further discussion? Mr. Weiss?
Good.
Okay.
But
Brian's got some.
well, I'll hush after this. But can we make this more simple? Just for me. For me, I mean, and I hate to say that, but that's a lot of numbers to look at. I mean, if y'all understand it, more power to you. I'm glad y'all do.
It's more simple now. But
It is.
Way more simple. I
It
would
is.
say.
It is.
Yeah, but I mean,
It's a lot. I mean, the new salary schedule to me seems a little more. It looks to me a lot more easy for us to follow. And
I get the gist of it, but I mean, there's still ways to simplify it even more, correct? I guess putting everybody on one is what we're.
That's the intent is to get to one salary schedule. What this latest change,
About 3/4 of the way there.
Perkins and the board's consider right now, it brings basically everyone from step 11 to 35 and puts them on the new schedule, plus the 0 to 4s. So you basically have step 5 through 10 that are still on the old. And so those are the only ones, and as they move off, those will go away.
each year, one will go away, right?
Correct.
And the other point of contention is the supplement is not going to get in future 4% raise or whatever the percent is. Is that's,
In the law, it clearly states, and it's on page 8 in the pay rate bill, that the law does not require the board to raise whatever the state legislation gives raises, does not require the board to add that to supplement. That's like, you have the principal supplements, you have assistant principals after school supplements, you have all the coaching supplements, all the supplements that are board paid are not required in the law to receive a raise. The raise is specifically stated to the department and state. And that is on page 8.
I got a lot of questions too about locally funded units and, the 67 units, where those go. And I did confirm that those are all in our schools. Of course, we have some locally funded support, locally funded central office staff, but we do have the 67 units, and they're a combination of assistant principals, teachers, counselors. So those 67 local units that are paid fully through local funds are at our schools. All right. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
aye.
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 Motion is approved. Mr. Perkins.
Administrative item B, I recommend approval of the 2023-2024 system calendar as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation for approval of the 23-24 system calendar. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Item C, I recommend approval of the assistant payroll manager job description as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation for approval of the assistant payroll manager job description. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Item D, I recommend approval of the Buckhorn Middle School principal probationary contract as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation for approval of the Buckhorn Middle School principal and probationary contract.
Yes, it does. Let me go back and do that over.
All right, let's pause just a minute. Mr. Perkins is going to repeat this for us.
Okay. I recommend approval of the personnel action for Buckhorn Middle School principal and probationary contract as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation for approval of the Buckhorn Middle School principal and probationary contract as submitted. Any discussion? You got discussion over there?
Someone's going to Fort Smith, apparently.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Item E, I recommend approval of the contracts for services as submitted.
Motion.
Second?
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation for approval of contracts for services as submitted. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I recommend approval of the personnel items as submitted.
Motion.
Second?
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation for approval of personnel items as submitted. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Item G, I recommend approval of the supplemental contracts as submitted.
Motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the approval of the supplemental contracts as submitted. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Before we go into executive session, is there any comments that any board member would like to speak on before we go? Okay.
Now, I do want to thank the teachers for,
Oh,
I had a meeting when I met with some of the teachers and Ken Cubic and a bunch of other folks, and y'all helped me understand the salary schedule more than, I mean, y'all did a good job explaining it to me. I guess I'm proud y'all are teachers, because so I just thank y'all for trying to explain it to me. I appreciate y'all.
he's teachable.
I'm teachable.
I do second Mr. Brooks. Thank you all. I do appreciate the calls, the texts, the emails, the additional information from mathematicians, everything. And it really did. It was insightful. It was informative, and it's something definitely we're willing to consider and look at in the future. So I do appreciate it for sure. All right. At this point, I need a motion to go into executive session for a student matter.
Motion.
Second?
All right. Motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned to executive session.